Before we get started, hit the comments and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is over there. Whether you're catching sunrise in Nairobi, burning midnight in New York, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France, I want to hear from you. Don't just watch silently, let me know where in the world you are. Now let's dive into the story. They noticed her leg first. Not her face, not the way her jaw was clenched against the cold, not the raw determination in her eyes. Just the missing leg. The prosthetic was half buried in snow, ice crusted around the joint, metal screaming faintly with every step. Cars crawled past on the mountain road, tires hissing, windows fogged. Some slowed. A few stopped. A woman rolled down her window, pity dripping from her voice. "Honey, you can't walk out here. You'll freeze." Laughter followed, from somewhere behind her, short, cruel, and gone with the wind. The blizzard howled like an animal, ripping sound from the air. Snow slapped her cheeks. Her name was Elara Voss, and she was running out of time. Elara stumbled, caught herself with a gloved hand, and kept moving. Each step burned. The cold found every weakness. The seam in her boot, the gap in her coat, the memory in her bones where the leg used to be. Headlights washed over her again. A pickup skidded to a stop, doors opening. Two men jumped out, their jackets bright and clean, faces full of alarm, and something worse. "Ma'am, you're not making it another mile," one said, eyes glued to the prosthetic like it was a broken tool. "We can call someone." Call someone. She almost laughed. The road behind her was already swallowed. The road ahead was worse. She shook her head and pushed past them. The men stared, helpless, as the wind swallowed her whole. A black SUV cut through the white like a shadow. It didn't skid. It didn't hesitate. It rolled to a stop beside her, engine steady, hazard lights blinking calm and sure. The window slid down. Warm air spilled out, carrying the smell of leather and coffee. Inside sat a man with weathered hands on the wheel and eyes that missed nothing. His beard was dusted with snow. A patch on his jacket was covered by frost. He watched her, not her leg, not the storm, but her face. "You're hurt," he said simply. Not a question. The blizzard screamed louder, as if daring him to step out. Elara opened her mouth to refuse. Pride rose first, sharp and stubborn. Then pain followed, heavy and honest. Her vision narrowed. The road tilted. She thought of the note folded in her pocket, damp now, ink bleeding. She thought of promises made and broken, of a night years ago when everything changed. The man opened his door, boots crunching, moving with a practiced calm that felt unreal in the chaos. He stopped a step away, close enough for her to see the lines at the corners of his eyes, the quiet authority in his posture. "I'm not here to pity you," he said, voice low, steady. "And I'm not leaving you here." He nodded toward the passenger seat. "Ride with me." The wind surged. Snow erased the road behind them. Elara hesitated, just long enough for the world to tip, and then everything went white. Elara woke to warmth first. Not comfort, just the absence of pain's sharpest edge. The SUV hummed beneath her like a living thing, tires gripping ice with quiet confidence. The man drove with both hands steady, eyes scanning mirrors and wide-out gaps. She smelled coffee again, strong and bitter. Her prosthetic lay on the floor, straps loosened, snow melting into a dark pool. Shame flared hot in her chest. She pushed herself upright. "Stop," she said, voice hoarse. He didn't look at her. "I will," he replied, "when it's safe." The heater sighed. The windshield wipers fought the storm. She noticed the scar along his knuckle, the way he checked the road without panic. "Who are you?" she asked. He answered after a beat. "Call me Rourke." Nothing else. The road curved and memory slid in like a knife. 3 years earlier, Elara had stood on a different road under a different sky. Dust instead of snow, heat instead of cold. Karsk Valley, a place that never forgave mistakes. She had been a logistics engineer for a private contractor, smart with routes, fuel, and timing. She trusted maps more than people. On that day, a convoy moved late. An IED bloomed where there shouldn't have been one. The blast stole her leg and took Merrick Holt, her brother-in-law, with it. The report said fog of war. The family said her name like it tasted bitter. She learned how fast love turns conditional when loss needs a face. She left the work. She left the town. But guilt doesn't stay behind when you move. Rourke slowed near a turnout, the world briefly opening into a ghostly overlook. He pulled in, engine idling. "Drink," he said, handing her the coffee. She took it, hands shaking. The cup warmed her palms. "You didn't answer me," she said. "What are you doing out here?" He shrugged once. "Driving north." She caught the lie, not the words, the space around them. He watched the storm like he'd learned to read worse. A radio crackled with emergency traffic. A closure ahead. A stranded bus. Names and mile markers. Elara stiffened. The pass, she said. If it closes, people will be trapped. Rourke nodded, eyes narrowing. Already are. He glanced at her prosthetic, then away. You know the roads. It wasn't a question. It was an invitation. She laughed, sharp and surprised. You picked up the wrong woman, she said. Everyone else thinks I'm broken. Rourke met her gaze fully now. There was recognition. Not pity. Not awe. Calculation, respect, and something like relief. Broken things don't keep moving, he said. They stop. He pointed ahead where the road vanished into white. I can drive. You can guide. We get people out. The heater clicked. The storm roared. Elara thought of the note in her pocket, an address north of the pass, a child's handwriting, a plea she hadn't known how to answer. Her heart hammered. She nodded once. Okay, she said. But if we do this, we do it right. Rourke smiled, not wide, not easy. The smile of someone stepping back into a fight he never truly left. He eased the SUV onto the road, hazard lights blinking through the storm. Elara leaned forward, eyes tracking curves only she remembered, calling distances and angles like a language she hadn't spoken since the blast. The radio crackled again. The pass was closing fast. Ahead, somewhere in the white, people waited. And behind them, the storm gathered its teeth. The SUV climbed steadily, engine low and patient, tires biting into ice with a confidence Elara felt in her chest. She leaned forward, eyes narrowed, counting seconds between curves, listening to the wind the way sailors listen to waves. Hard right in 50, she said. Then it drops. Don't brake, coast. Rourke followed every word without question. The vehicle slid, corrected, and held. Trust formed in silence, thick and fragile. Outside, the blizzard erased the world into layers of white and shadow. Inside, the dash lights painted their faces blue and amber, making the moment feel suspended, like they were the only two people left alive. The radio spat fragments. A bus stalled near the switchbacks. Engine dead. 23 passengers. One child with asthma. Elara's breath caught. She closed her eyes and saw another list years ago, names typed clean and cold. She swallowed. We can reach them, she said. But we'll have to turn around fast. There's a service spur, barely marked. Most drivers miss it. Rourke nodded once. He adjusted his grip, knuckles whitening. Show me. He didn't ask how she knew. He didn't ask what it cost her to remember. He simply drove. They found the bus half buried, hazard lights blinking like a heartbeat losing rhythm. Snow plastered the windows. Faces pressed close inside, eyes wide with fear and relief. Rourke was out of the SUV before Elara finished speaking, moving with purpose, pulling chains, shouting instructions that cut through the wind. Elara watched him work. Efficient, calm, never wasting motion. A man slipped on the ice. Rourke caught him without looking. A woman clutched a wheezing boy. Elara waved them toward the SUV, voice steady, hands firm. The boy's breathing rasped like torn paper. Elara pressed the inhaler into his palm, counting breaths with him, matching his fear with her calm. The child stared at her leg, then at her face. You're strong, he whispered. She smiled, small and honest. So are you. They moved fast. Too fast for doubt. Too slow for the storm. As the last passenger climbed aboard a maintenance truck that had crept in behind them, the wind shifted, harder, meaner. A sound like thunder rolled through the valley. Rourke's head snapped up. Slide, he said. The mountain answered. Snow gave way in a long roaring sigh. The road ahead vanished, replaced by a wall of moving white. Elara's heart slammed. Reverse, now. Rourke threw the SUV back, engine screaming, tires fighting for purchase. The avalanche crossed where they'd been seconds before, burying the spur in silence. They sat there, breathing hard, snow settling like ash. The radio went dead. Elara's hands shook. She pressed them to her thighs until the tremor eased. Rourke looked at her, really looked this time. You okay? He asked. She nodded, then shook her head. I don't get to be not okay, she said. The words surprised her. They were old, polished by years of use. Rourke's jaw tightened. That's a lie, he said softly. But I get why you tell it. They turned south, then east, then north again, threading roads that barely existed. As they drove, the quiet crept in, heavy with things unsaid. Elara's gaze drifted to the note in her pocket, edges frayed. She hadn't told him why she was really heading north. She hadn't told anyone. Outside, the storm paused as if listening. Inside something shifted. She realized she wasn't being carried anymore. She was choosing. And choice, terrifying and sharp, felt like freedom. Ahead, a glow cut through the white. A checkpoint. Or a trap. Rourke slowed. Elara leaned forward, heart pounding. That light, she said. It shouldn't be there. The SUV rolled on into the unknown as the storm gathered itself for another strike. The light resolved into a barricade of cones half buried in snow and a generator coughing weakly beside a sheriff's cruiser. The deputy stood hunched, face wrapped, eyes tired. Rourke rolled down the window. Roads closed, the deputy shouted, voice thin in the wind. Everything north is shut. Elara leaned forward before Rourke could answer. There's a service lane past Marker 9, she said. It skirts the ridge and drops near the old quarry. The deputy blinked, surprised. That road's not on the map, he said. Elara met his gaze, steady. I know. A paw stretched. The wind screamed. Then the deputy stepped aside. You didn't hear it from me, he said. Rourke nodded, already moving. As they passed, Elara felt the weight of what she'd just claimed. Knowledge she tried to bury had teeth. They hit the service lane and the world narrowed. Trees clawed at the SUV. Ice snapped under the tires. Elara guided them through turns she remembered by feel, not sight. With each call-out, distance, cambered drop, another layer of her old life peeled back. She saw Merrick again, leaning over a hood with a grease-smudged grin, teasing her for memorizing roads like prayers. She heard the crack of the blast that followed her last correct call. Her chest tightened. Rourke sensed it. He slowed, not asking, just giving space. The quiet pressed in. Finally, Elara spoke. I was wrong once, she said. One route. One assumption. The words tasted like rust. People paid for it. Rourke kept his eyes on the road. Everyone who moves fast is wrong sometimes, he said. What matters is what you do after. The lane ended at a deadfall where a pine had snapped and fallen across the track. Rourke killed the engine. The storm leaned in. He grabbed a saw from the back, movements economical. Elara struggled out, the cold biting deep. She steadied herself, then lifted the trunk with him, counting under her breath, timing the heave. Pain flared. She welcomed it. Pain meant she was here. As the tree shifted free, a truck emerged from the white, old, civilian fishtailing. It clipped the ditch and stuck, engine whining. A man stumbled out, eyes wild. My wife, she's pregnant, he shouted. She's in the cab. Elara didn't hesitate. She climbed into the snow, boots sinking, breath fogging. She reached the door, pulled it open, and met a woman's terror. Elara took her hand, warm through the glove. Look at me, she said. We're getting you out. They moved the woman into the SUV, wrapped her in blankets. The man cried, loud and unashamed. Rourke drove, fast now, lane widening into a service road that led toward the quarry lights Elara remembered. Sirens wailed faintly ahead. Relief flickered, and died, when the radio crackled back to life with a name that hit Elara like a punch. Holt. A rescue coordinator calling for Merrick Holt's family. Her heart slammed. The note in her pocket burned. Rourke glanced at her. You know that name, he said. Elara nodded, tears freezing on her lashes. He was my family, she whispered. The road opened, lights brightened, and the storm fell briefly quiet, as if the mountain itself was listening. Somewhere ahead waited answers she wasn't sure she deserved. And she was done running from them. The quarry lights burned yellow against the snow, a fragile island of order in a violent world. Trucks idled. Medics moved with purpose, boots crunching, voices clipped in calm. As Rourke rolled in, doors opened before the SUV fully stopped. The pregnant woman was taken gently, her husband stumbling alongside, gratitude spilling out in broken pieces. Elara stayed seated a moment longer, heart pounding, the radio's echo of that name still ringing in her ears. Holt. She pressed her palm to her pocket, feeling the folded paper inside, damp and soft as a bruise. Rourke cut the engine and looked at her, not urging, not questioning. Waiting, she stepped out into the cold and the past came with her. A rescue coordinator approached, eyes sharp. We're short north of the pass, he said. Avalanche blocked the main road. We've got families stranded at the lodge. Elara's mouth went dry. The lodge sat beyond Marker 9, beyond the service lane she'd revealed. She could feel the old map lighting up in her mind, routes branching, risks tallying. Rourke spoke before she could retreat. We can take them, he said. The coordinator studied him, then Elara's prosthetic, then her face. Doubt flickered. Elara straightened. I know the back way, she said. I'll get you there. They rolled again, deeper now, stakes heavier. As the lights faded behind them, Rourke broke the silence. "The note," he said gently. "You've been touching it since the radio call." Ilara stared at the road until it blurred. "Marek's daughter," she said. Asterisk asterisk Iria asterisk asterisk. "She wrote to me." Her voice wavered, then steadied. "She found my name in old paperwork. Asked why I never came back." Snow hissed against the windshield. "I didn't know how to answer," Ilara continued. "So I ran north. Told myself it was for work. For distance." She laughed, small and bitter. "Turns out distance doesn't work like that." The lodge emerged like a ghost, windows dark, shapes huddled inside. They found families wrapped in coats, children crying, an elderly man slumped and shivering. Ilara moved through them, calm returning like muscle memory. She counted heads, assigned seats, made hard calls fast. When the elderly man collapsed, she was there, hands firm, voice steady, telling him to breathe. Rourke watched her with something like awe, and something heavier. Outside, the wind rose again, angry at being ignored. They loaded the last family when headlights flared behind them, unmarked, fast. 2 men stepped out, gear clean, eyes colder than the snow. One smiled thinly. "Roads closed," he said, echoing the deputy's words from earlier. His gaze lingered on Ilara's leg. "We'll take it from here." Rourke's posture shifted. "Subtle. Dangerous." "Who are you?" he asked. The man's smile widened. "Private security," he said. "Protecting assets." Ilara felt the trap snap shut. The quarry. The lodge. The service lane. Pieces aligned with a sickening click. "You're blocking evacuation," she said. "People will die." The man shrugged. "Not our problem." Rourke stepped closer, voice low. "It is now." The second man reached for his radio. The storm chose that moment to roar, wind tearing words away. In the chaos, a child screamed. Ilara moved, without thinking, putting herself between the men and the families. "Get them inside," she barked to Rourke. He hesitated just long enough to read her face, then obeyed. The men laughed. "You think you're stopping us?" one sneered. Ilara met his eyes, fear steady in her chest, resolve harder. "No," she said. "I think you already did." Headlights vanished as the men retreated, snow swallowing their tracks. The lodge doors slammed shut. Inside, families huddled, warmth fragile but real. Outside, Ilara's knees shook. Rourke returned, eyes blazing. "That was reckless," he said. She nodded. "So was leaving," she replied. They stood there, the storm circling, both knowing something had shifted. Ahead lay the hardest choice yet. And this time, Ilara wouldn't look away. The lodge creaked under the wind like an old ship at sea. Inside, heaters rattled, lights flickered, and fear moved from face to face like a quiet infection. Ilara stood near the door, back straight, listening, to the storm, to the families, to the part of herself that still wanted to disappear. Rourke moved through the room, checking windows, testing locks, offering a calm word here, a steady nod there. When he returned, he stopped beside her, voice low. "Those men will be back," he said. "They don't like loose ends." Ilara nodded. She already knew. The storm didn't erase intentions. It revealed them. A generator coughed and died. Darkness rushed in, broken by a child's cry. Ilara felt the room tighten. She raised her voice, not loud, just clear. "Phones to low power," she said. "Stay together. No one goes outside alone." The words landed. Order followed. Rourke watched her take control and saw the weight she carried, not authority borrowed but earned. He leaned close. "You've done this before," he said. She swallowed. "I failed before," she replied. The difference mattered to her. He didn't argue. He handed her a flashlight and went back to work. Hours stretched. The storm hammered. Ilara moved from family to family, answering questions she didn't have answers for, offering warmth she barely felt herself. She knelt beside a girl tracing shapes in frost on a window. "Are we going to die?" the girl asked, eyes too old. Ilara met them. "No," she said. "We're going to wait. And then we're going to go." The girl nodded, satisfied with the certainty if not the plan. Ilara stood, pain flaring in her hip, and breathed through it. Pain meant she was present. Present meant she could choose. A knock hit the door, hard, deliberate. Rourke was there instantly, hand raised, silencing the room. Another knock. Then a voice, muffled by wind. "Sheriff's office." Ilara's stomach dropped. She recognized the cadence. Not the deputy from earlier. This one was practiced. Too smooth. Rourke looked at her. She shook her head once. He cracked the door just enough to see boots and badges gleaming too clean. A smile flashed. "We're evacuating," the man said. "Follow us." Rourke's voice stayed even. "Where?" The smile thinned. "Safer than here." Ilara stepped forward into the narrow opening, letting the light catch her face. "If you're evacuating," she said, "you'll have med kits and transport for children." Silence. The wind howled. The man's eyes flicked, just once, to her leg. He made a decision. "Stand aside," he said. "This is official business." Ilara felt the line inside her draw sharp and bright. "Then make it official," she replied. "Call it in. Right now." The man's hand drifted toward his coat. Rourke moved faster. The door slammed. Locks clicked. Inside the room exhaled. They waited for retaliation. It didn't come. Instead, the radio crackled alive, real this time. A rescue convoy rerouted. ETA uncertain. Ilara slid down the wall, breath shaking. Rourke crouched beside her. "You didn't freeze," he said. She laughed softly, surprised. "I used to," she admitted. "When people looked at me like I was already done." He considered her. "They don't get to decide," he said. She closed her eyes, letting the truth settle. Near dawn, the storm eased its grip. Gray light seeped through the windows. Engines sounded in the distance, many coordinated. Relief rolled through the lodge like a wave. Ilara stood, braced herself, and went to the door. As it opened, snow fell away to reveal a line of vehicles and uniforms moving with purpose. At the front, a woman stepped forward, eyes sharp, voice steady. "We've got you," she said. Ilara looked back at the families, then at Rourke. Something inside her unlocked. The storm had tested her and found her holding. And north of here, beyond the pass, waited a girl named Iria and a truth long overdue. The convoy moved like a promise kept. Engines growled in harmony, lights cutting clean paths through the thinning snow. Ilara rode in the SUV again, the lodge shrinking behind them, families safe and waving through frosted windows. Relief should have filled her. Instead, a quieter fear took its place, the kind that comes when the danger fades and truth steps closer. Rourke drove without hurry now, shoulders easing for the first time since the blizzard began. "You held the line," he said. Ilara watched the road unspool, gray and wet. "I didn't know if I could," she replied. "You did," he said simply. The certainty in his voice felt like a hand on her back, steadying her as the mountain finally loosened its grip. At a junction marked by a bent sign and a stand of blackened pines, the convoy split. Rescue vehicles turned south. Rourke signaled north. Ilara felt her pulse quicken. "You don't have to," she said. "I can take a ride from here." Rourke shook his head, eyes forward. "I'm already riding," he said. The road narrowed, snow giving way to slush and old scars in the asphalt. As they drove, Ilara unfolded the note for the 100th time. "And Ilara," it read in careful letters. "Mom says you were brave. I want to know why you left." Asterisk asterisk, the words pressed on her chest. Brave. The lie had traveled far. They stopped at a small diner clinging to the roadside like a stubborn thought. Steam rose from mugs. A radio murmured weather updates and names. Ilara flexed her fingers, warming them, rehearsing sentences she'd never practiced. Rourke watched her, then spoke. "You don't owe anyone perfection," he said. "Just the truth." She nodded, swallowing. Outside, the sky cleared to a pale blue, mountains etched sharp against it. The storm had moved on. It felt unfair that the world could look so clean. The town of Northfall appeared in the afternoon light. Low buildings, a schoolyard buried in snow, a river cut dark and fast. Ilara's breath hitched. "That's it," she said. Rourke parked across from a modest house with peeling paint and a shoveled path. Smoke curled from the chimney. Ilara's legs felt heavy as she stepped out. Each step toward the door weighed more than the last mile of the blizzard. She knocked. The door opened to a woman with tired eyes and Marek's smile. Recognition flared, then hardened into something guarded. "Ilara," she said. Not a question. "You came." Ilara nodded. "I should have sooner." Iria hovered behind her mother, half hidden, eyes bright and searching. Ilara knelt, the motion slow and careful. "Hi," she said. "I'm Ilara." Iria studied the prosthetic, then Ilara's face. "You look strong," she said. Ilara laughed, breath catching. "I wasn't always," she replied. "But I'm learning." The girl stepped closer, small hand slipping into Ilara's glove. The contact burned sweet and sharp. Inside, words waited, hard ones, honest ones. Outside, Rourke leaned against the SUV, giving them space, eyes scanning the quiet street like a habit he couldn't shake. They sat at the kitchen table, steam rising from soup. Elara spoke without hiding, about the road, the mistake, the blast, the years of running. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't defend herself. She told the truth and let it land. Silence followed, thick and real. Iria broke it. "Will you stay?" she asked. Elara looked at the girl, then at the window at the road north that had finally ended. "Yes," she said. And for the first time since the snow, the answer felt like home. Elara stayed. Not because it was easy, nothing about Northfall was, but because leaving would have been another kind of lie. Days passed in small, careful steps. She shoveled the walk with Iria counting scoops. She fixed a loose hinge. She learned the sound the river made at night and how the town breathed when the sun dipped behind the ridge. At the kitchen table, she answered questions with patience, letting silence do its work when words fell short. Iria listened with a seriousness that startled Elara, filing truths away like precious stones. Marek's wife, Sela watched from the doorway, arms crossed, a wariness that softened by degrees too small to measure. Rourke didn't leave either. He took a room at the diner and made himself useful without being asked. He repaired a snowmobile, hauled supplies for neighbors still digging out, and never once mentioned the storm unless someone else did. Elara noticed how people responded to him, how relief followed him into rooms like a shadow. She also noticed the way he kept an eye on the road, the old habit refusing to fade. One evening, as dusk painted the snow lavender, he found her on the porch adjusting the strap of her prosthetic. "You're not done yet," he said quietly. She looked up. "Neither are you." The town meeting was called the next morning. A rumor had traveled faster than the thaw: private security, blocked roads, interference with evacuations. Names weren't spoken, but everyone felt the shape of the threat. Elara stood at the back, hands folded, listening as anger and fear rose together. She recognized the feeling. It was the moment before a bad decision. When the mayor asked if anyone had information, Elara stepped forward. Her heart hammered, but her voice held. She told them about the lodge, the men with clean badges, the roads that vanished when it mattered. She didn't embellish. She didn't flinch. The room went still. A man near the front scoffed. "And we're supposed to trust a map from someone who—" His gaze dropped to her leg. Elara felt the old heat rise then pass. She met his eyes. "You're not trusting me," she said. "You're trusting the mountain. It does what it does whether you believe me or not." Murmurs followed. Sela stood, hand on Iria's shoulder. "I trust her," she said. The words landed heavier than applause. That afternoon a call came in, official this time. An inquiry. Statements requested. The private security firm had a name, contracts, money. They also had a trail of complaints. Rourke listened from the doorway, jaw set. "They won't like being exposed," he said later when the house was quiet. Elara nodded. Neither did the storm. She felt the old fear press close then recede. This time she wasn't alone. The knock came after dark. Not the sharp demand of the lodge. A careful, almost respectful tap. Rourke was on his feet before Elara could move. He opened the door to a man in a clean coat, badge visible, eyes calculating. "Ms. Voss," he said. "We'd like a word." Elara stepped beside Rourke. "Here is fine," she replied. The man smiled thinly. "We can make this simple," he said. "Or complicated." Elara thought of Iria asleep down the hall, of maps memorized and lines held. "Simple," she said, "is telling the truth." The man's smile faltered. He left without threats, which worried Elara more than if he'd made them. That night, the river sounded louder. Rourke sat at the table, cleaning his gear with ritual care. Elara joined him. "If they come back," she said, "I won't hide." Rourke looked up, eyes steady. "Neither will I." Outside, headlights crested the hill and paused. Elara's pulse jumped. The light lingered, then turned away. The message was clear. The road north remembered them. And whatever came next would not be quiet. Snow had returned, but gentler this time, a hushed whisper instead of the blizzard that had tested them before. Elara and Rourke drove the SUV north, past the quarry and service lane, toward the ridge where the final obstacle waited. Iria's words from days ago echoed, "You're strong." They had become a mantra. The mountain loomed, gray and jagged. Every turn threatened to undo the calm they had built. The radio crackled intermittently. Rescue teams reported blocked routes, stranded families. The storm's memory lingered, a reminder that nature, and human greed, never forgot. At marker 9 the air tightened. 2 SUVs waited, private security clear in posture and intent. The men who had tried to block the evacuation stood tall, faces cold, hands brushing weapons they didn't need to draw. "Turn back," one warned, voice sharp against the wind. Elara didn't flinch. The families they had rescued were counting on her. Rourke's hand rested lightly on the console. "Ready?" "We're not turning back," she said. Every word carried the weight of years she had spent hiding, of promises left unkept, of Marek's daughter waiting. The men exchanged glances. One smiled, condescending. "You'll regret this." Rourke killed the engine. Snow swirled around them, the mountain masking their movements. Elara stepped out, prosthetic boot sinking into ice, chest rising and falling with controlled effort. "We know the pass," she said. "We'll go around." They didn't believe her. One moved forward, daring. Rourke followed, shadow and presence, calm and lethal in equal measure. In a flurry of orders and movement, the confrontation turned, tension so thick it could have snapped steel. Elara guided families through hidden tracks, calling out directions, distances, angles, every instruction precise, earned through pain and survival. The men hesitated, realizing they had underestimated the one-legged woman they had mocked. The avalanche that came next wasn't of snow, but of truth. A radio call exposed their interference. The private firm's contracts, complaints, and violations became real-time evidence. Enforcement arrived, engines roaring, flashing lights cutting the stormy gray. The men froze, cornered by the law, the mountain, and the woman they had sneered at weeks ago. Elara didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Justice carried its own weight. Families emerged from hidden paths, eyes wide with relief and recognition. Iria ran forward, throwing herself into Elara's embrace. The warmth was a shock against the cold that had defined her life for so long. Rourke stood back, scanning, ever vigilant. "You did it," he said. Elara exhaled, letting exhaustion hit. "No," she corrected. "We did it." The storm had tested them, the mountain had tried to erase them, and human cruelty had followed. Yet here they were, alive, together, proving that courage didn't require perfection. She looked at the ridge, snow settling quietly, and felt the mountain respect her. For the first time she didn't run. She didn't hide. She chose the line she would hold, and held it with every step. The convoy moved forward, families safe, the light of the emergency vehicles reflecting on wet asphalt. Elara glanced at Rourke, silently acknowledging their unspoken bond forged in wind, ice, and fear. The one-legged woman had become a guide, a protector, a force unbowed. And north of the pass, life waited, fragile but real, ready to be embraced. The sun finally broke through clouds, painting the pass in pale gold. The storm that had terrorized the mountains and threatened lives was a memory etched in wet asphalt and icy branches. Elara sat in the SUV for a long moment, letting the warmth sink into her bones. Iria's laughter carried up the road from the waiting families, voices mingling with the steady hum of engines. Marek's daughter ran toward her, eyes shining, small hands gripping Elara's gloves as though she might vanish if let go. "I knew you'd come," Iria said. Elara swallowed the lump in her throat. "I promised," she whispered. It wasn't just a word. It was a lifetime of truths finally told. Rourke watched from the driver's side, his posture relaxed but alert. The mountain had tested them, tried to bury courage and honesty beneath snow and fear, yet they had emerged. He stepped forward, brushing frost from his jacket. "You did more than survive," he said. "You led." Elara looked at him, her chest heavy with exhaustion and relief. "I didn't do it alone," she replied. The quiet understanding passed between them, a bond forged in blizzards, risk, and the unspoken promise of protection. Authorities arrived to secure the roads and escort families safely north. The private security firm had been exposed. Their interference would cost them everything. Elara gave statements, answered questions, but the most important reunion was waiting inside the modest Northfall home. Sela met her at the doorway, eyes softened, the weight of suspicion and grief finally lifting. "You came back," she said, voice breaking. "I wasn't sure you would." Elara stepped inside, closing the door against the wind, and for the first time in years she felt anchored. Iria hugged her tightly. "Stay?" she asked again. Elara kissed the girl's forehead. "Yes, I'm staying." Evening fell and the mountain's harsh white softened into violet shadows. The SUV, once a vessel of survival, sat parked beneath the ridge, snow settling gently around it. Rourke stood beside Elara, shoulders squared against the cold, eyes scanning the horizon, not for danger but for promise. "You'll need a proper home here," he said. "And help." Elara nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "We'll figure it out. Together." The warmth of family, of trust earned and fear faced, pressed around her like sunlight in snow. Later, when the last convoy had left and the lights of Northfall twinkled softly, Ilara finally allowed herself to breathe fully. The storm had been merciless, the mountain unyielding, but she had crossed the line she once feared, guided others through chaos, and claimed her place in the world she tried to abandon. The mountain remembered her now, not as the one-legged woman it had tried to erase, but as a force unbroken, fierce and alive. Rourke opened the door for her, as he had the night she had first stumbled into his SUV, eyes steady and voice calm. "Ride with me?" he asked, not as a question but as an invitation to continue the journey, not over snow or ice but through life, with courage, choice and trust. Ilara smiled, stepping forward. The wind carried them both north, past the pass, into the warm, uncertain light of a future they had earned together. The storm was over. The mountain had been conquered. And at last Ilara had come home.